It's time to talk birthdays. But before we do, a quick reminder for whoever needs to hear this. You don't have to do all the things. You can pick what you love about celebrating birthdays and make that your specialty. For example,
I love a party and I love a theme. So
yes.
All of my daughter's birthdays, she's had 5 so far, they've all been awesome.
The one thing that I was always proud about is I would make them a fancy cake.
I do love giving gifts, decorations, obviously.
This is the How She Moms podcast with Whitney Archibald. I'm a mother of 5 on a mission to help moms connect with your kids, manage your homes, and create your own unique version of motherhood. I curate ideas from different moms so you can pick and choose what works for you and your family. When my son Abel heard I was doing a birthday episode, he suggested that maybe my sister Haley should be in charge of the episode. It's not that I'm bad at birthdays per se, it's just that I'm not very flashy about them, or consistent. I've thrown big, fun, themed parties. We've had small family parties with just cake and presents. I've put up a few decorations here and there, but nothing beyond balloons and streamers. Sometimes we celebrate on the actual day, and sometimes on the weekend before or after. Sometimes we celebrate for the full week. My cakes don't always look great, but they usually taste great. And sometimes birthday dessert isn't a cake at all. Sometimes I make a birthday dinner, sometimes we go out. If I have a birthday specialty, like the women from the intro, it's flexibility and maybe a high chaos tolerance in the form of lots of children running around my house at birthday parties. But I'm a curious woman, and I really wanted to know, how do other moms do birthdays? And not just parties, but what are some of the quieter, behind-the-scenes family birthday traditions? So for the past year or so, I've been asking most of the moms I've interviewed how they do birthdays. Some are birthday superstars, including my sister Haley, the one my son was referring to, and my other sister Cassie is also very good at throwing themed parties, so I don't always show their birthday party pictures to my kids, for obvious reasons. I ended up grouping the ideas I collected into 4 main categories. First, parties, which includes friend parties, family parties, milestone parties, and adult parties. And then second, gifts, then food, and finally, a bunch of miscellaneous traditions that build connection. Whatever your level of birthday expertise, the moms I talk to have some really great ideas, from simple traditions to hilarious themes to an elaborate coming-of-age ritual. I love that they all do it their own way. Some go big and some keep it small. I love the way Monica Packer, host of the wonderful About Progress podcast, knows her limits related to birthday celebrations.
I don't do birthday parties till my kids turn 8. And that was very much made as a young mom, knowing that I get really burnt out by doing a lot of the fantastical stuff with my kids. And my mom was amazing at that. Like, our birthdays were always so fun. And it wasn't like extravagant. She just took a lot of time and she loved to throw them. She was really into holidays. And I'm kind of the mom who I don't think I've ever done Elf on the Shelf because I forget. I don't have that part inside of me. So in some ways I made that decision knowing, no, this is who I am as a mom. And it's great that other moms do this differently, but we'll start birthday parties at 8 and every other year.
But birthdays and birthday parties are also conspicuous events, so it's easy to compare your kid's birthday parties to the neighbor down the street with the petting zoo in her backyard for her toddler's birthday. So even though Monica knows her boundaries, it's still easy to compare.
I still have that little shame voice coming in my head and the should saying, you know, so-and-so does such a great job of this. I love how she does that. And is it bad that I haven't done that? Oh man, I hope my little kid isn't upset that they don't have a birthday party, even though they've never complained about it. It's been really interesting. They don't even notice.
And it's true. Often the parents care and notice these things way more than the kids, especially the elaborate 1-year-old parties. We all know these are really for the adults. It actually doesn't take much to make a memorable birthday. Think back to your own birthday memories. Most of them probably don't involve a petting zoo. I love this memory from Amy Wilson, co-host of the What Fresh Hell podcast.
My most shining childhood memory was we were in the Poconos and we were staying in what I think was a camper. I have to ask my mom about this, but I remember this. It was my 6th or 7th birthday and we had people over, as into like the patch of ground right outside said camper. And a bearded man who I did not know came to my birthday party. And I remember him like holding a can of beer in his hand and giving me $1. And no one had ever lived like that before. I got $1 from a stranger. I was like, anything can happen if like anybody's coming up to me and just giving me money on my birthday, the most important thing in the world. I loved it.
That clip was from a great episode of the What Fresh Hell podcast called Let's Rethink Birthday Parties from September of 2021. I'll share a few more clips from it, but as with all of their episodes, the whole thing is a great listen. Whatever you do and whatever expectations you set for your kids, especially when they're young, will be great. You get to celebrate in a way that works best for your personality, your individual kids, your stage of life, and your family dynamic. If throwing elaborate parties is what you want to do, that's amazing. If you prefer intimate family gatherings, that's great too. And like the women from the intro, you don't have to be good at all aspects of birthday celebrations. You can focus on one or two things that matter most to you and your kids. So now let's talk about why we celebrate birthdays. It feels weird to set objectives for celebrating birthdays, but most of us have already done this subconsciously. We celebrate our kids' birthdays to make them feel special, to help them build or strengthen connections with their family and friends, and to reminisce about their births and other special memories. We also celebrate their advancement to new stages, like becoming a teenager or an adult. I like using birthdays to really zero in on what makes a kid unique: their talents, interests, current obsessions, and the way they like to spend their time. You can also use birthdays to help serve other purposes, like teaching your child hosting and social skills. Here's what some of the moms I interviewed have to say about the purpose of birthday celebrations. First, Anna Zupanzik.
I want them to feel special and honored and know that they're valued in the family, that we treasure them and have put some thought into who they are and what makes them who they are. I think it's a great chance to encourage them and just help them feel honored.
And here's Jen Brimhall.
It's that one day that you can just focus on them, especially if they have siblings. I don't know about you, but sometimes we are running all over the place trying to get everybody through activities or making sure everybody's homework is done, or somebody needs special attention today because they're having a bad day or whatever it is. So I think it's nice that we can spend one day that's just focused on them, and they can feel special and they can hear the story about when they were born, and they can hear everybody say nice things about them. And I think it makes them feel like I matter, I'm important.
And Meg Singley.
I think birthdays are just a really good chance to try to bring out some magic in life. And sometimes it's little things like streamers in the hallway that got put up while they were asleep, or giant balloons that are bigger than them, something kind of whimsical, but something that we know they will like, and that this day is about them, I think is just really kind of beautiful and magical and fun.
It hadn't really occurred to me until this conversation with Meg, but for the rest of the family, birthdays can be a great way to practice empathy, really putting ourselves in the birthday person's shoes and figuring out what will really make them happy and help them have a fun day. Now that we've talked about why to celebrate birthdays, we'll spend the rest of the episode on the how, the tactics and logistics: parties, gifts, food, and then a grab bag of other relationship-building traditions. First, the biggest topic, parties. We have several choices here, each with a whole spectrum of options, from the big parties where you invite every kid in your kid's school class to intimate family gatherings or even no party at all. From destination parties at play centers, amusement parks, or sports complexes to your own home, a restaurant, or a local park. From yearly parties to occasional milestone parties, from drop-off parties to parties where the parents stick around. Growing up, my family's rule was that we could have a friend party every other year, and I carried that into my own family. I also made the somewhat arbitrary rule that until they were about 10, they could invite one more friend than their age. But I actually don't follow either rule anymore. If it works out for a kid to have a party, we have a party. If they'd rather invite a friend or two to go somewhere fun, like a ropes course or a rock concert, we do that instead. I've never hosted a party at any kind of party center, partly because we live in kind of a party center desert where the closest one is about 30 minutes away, and I don't want to make other parents have to drive out and come to them. Plus, I don't know why, but the thought of going to one of those places stresses me out way more than having a billion kids at my own house, even if the kids' parents are there to watch them. That's why I had my first two kids completely convinced that Chuck E. Cheese was an invite-only establishment. When they'd see a commercial for it, or we'd pass by one and ask about it, I'd just act like it was some elite establishment. You have to know the right people to get in. Margaret Abels, the other co-host of the What Fresh Hell podcast, has some strong opinions about these kind of parties. I'm going to let her say what we've all been thinking.
The birthday party where you spend 2 hours of your Saturday sitting in the Jumperoo trampoline park is horrible. Horrible. or the bowling alley, talking to like, some other person who doesn't want to be there, it's awful.
Right.
And that's the must stay party. That's for kids, probably a lot of people under 8. Don't you think 8's about the dividing line for the drop off party?
But here's the thing. Kids love these places, and planning is as simple as making a reservation and sending invites. So if this is your thing, it's generous of you and the kids are going to love it. Maybe just not the parents. I also appreciate the sentiment of being inclusive and inviting the whole class, and I especially like the rule most schools have about not passing out invitations at school unless you're inviting the whole class. And inviting that many kids to your house is not really feasible unless you have a great big yard and can do it outside. Plus, any parents that are annoyed about coming and staying don't have to come. You don't have to bring your kids to every party they're invited to. If you did that, once you got multiple kids in the mix, that would be all you would do every weekend. Which brings up another question, drop off or stay? As Margaret just said, often the rule of thumb for people dropping off kids or staying at the party is 8, but I think this varies by community. Regardless, it's probably good to specify your preference on the invitation if kids are under 8 so families can make plans. I've actually only hosted drop-off parties, even for 3-year-olds, which is the youngest friend parties we've ever had. At that point, it's usually just 3 to 4 kids, and I usually know the families well. For a couple of years, while my kids were little, I also hired a 10 or 11-year-old to help out with parties, a great age since they're helpful but still really playful and fun for the kids, not to mention really inexpensive to hire. On the other hand, you can invite the parents to stay and basically have your own party. This is the way Wendy Castellano-Wolf, one of the hosts of the Mamacita podcast, likes it.
If you've ever been to like a Latino birthday party, it's really not about the kids. It's really about the parents getting together and having a party, and the kids just play with each other and have, piñata and candy. Like it's not about them.
As your kids grow, parties definitely evolve. I relaxed my every other year rule after my kids got a bit older. Now we're hosting 5 to 10 kids, usually teenagers, pretty much every weekend between my 3 oldest boys, so I'm used to being a party house. I'm not going to put in the effort that I used to put into parties when they were younger. My kids do most of the planning now, and I'm not as excited about planning themed parties as I used to be, so it's a good trade-off. The older ones got cooler parties like Indiana Jones or Ninja or Superhero, one was Olympics, but the younger ones get more of them. A lot of other moms talked about being influenced, especially at first, by how their own parents did parties, and then they evolved into their own patterns. This was true for both Devin and Alexis, the hosts of the Word to Your Mother podcast. Here's Devin James.
When I had my first child, I just thought we had to have a birthday party every time, like go somewhere, do something, go somewhere, do something. And that's because I think I only had maybe 2 birthday parties. So I just was like, she's going to have a birthday party every time, no matter the cost or nothing. She's a tax baby. So taxes came every time it was her birthday. So we had money, money to spend. But, she always had a birthday, but I think it was maybe after 9 or 10. We kind of slowed that down, and we would just do like intimate stuff or let her have a couple friends and we go do something. But mainly for like birthdays when they get older, I definitely want to like make it memorable for them and not really worry about like the glam, the place, how much it costs, like this and that. Like, they get excited over the smallest things. So my youngest, we've had, especially because the pandemic happened like right after Aria, we just had in-home birthdays with cake. I would, have a theme, decorate a little bit, and they're fine. Like, they'll just play with their toys and they're fine.
And here's Alexis Mayberry.
I was the same way. I had like a couple birthdays, maybe like 3 or 4 like birthday parties. Mm-hmm. And they're all, the first one I remember was when I was like 5, my mom came and they brought like a clown and she brought a cookie cake, and cookie cake is my favorite. And then I had a hotel party when I was 10. And then I had an 18th birthday party. That was a Mardi Gras theme. And I'm a really party person. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to get every mask, and the mask is going to be the invitation. And so like, that was my thing. And so for me, I was the same way. Like when Kaya's birthday, I'm like, every year she's going to have a party because I didn't have that many parties. And so it was like that until like 5. And then I was like, okay, this is going to be my new rule. They get a birthday when they're 1, 5, 10, maybe if it's their golden year, I'll do something special. And then like 13, because they're 13, 16, 18, something like that.
Devin and Alexis have a great rapport, probably because they've been friends and practically family since middle school. You can listen to their really fun podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. It's spelled word and then the number 2, YAMUVA, if you're going to look for it. You don't even actually have to have a plan for how often you throw friend parties. You can just kind of take it year by year. Even though she loves parties, that's what Joy Chantry does.
And it depends. Some years we don't. It depends on where we are mentally and where I am mentally, if I can handle it or not. We've done where we've just instead gone to the Family Fun Center, and that's been a great birthday. They've loved it.
Joy blogs about her fun and affordable ideas for parties and family fun at joysfunstuff.com. So many great party hacks. I love that Joy gives herself a break from parties when she's stressed or busy. And guess what? You can also opt out completely or just occasionally. You've already heard that Monica Packer's rule is no friend parties till age 8, and Jen Brimhall feels even less pressure to have friend parties.
We're pretty low key on most birthdays. I usually don't do a great big birthday party. We'll have, their special dinner and we'll invite grandma and grandpa over, but that's about as crazy as it gets with a couple gifts. So.
Okay, so do you do any friend parties at all?
Here and there, just if they ask for them, but it hasn't been anything that we've done a lot. So for whatever reason, it just hasn't been an annual yearly thing.
When I asked my Instagram community about their favorite birthday party themes, they came up with some good ones. Outer space, ponies, puppies, superheroes, pirates, Neverland, and then of course the character-based ones, Harry Potter, Cars, Big Hero 6, Little Mermaid. But one response made me do a double take, a garbage party. Of course, I had to know more. So I set up an interview and I got to meet the lovely Anna Zupanzik.
My son was 3 and I asked him, like, it's your birthday coming up. What would you like to do? And he right away, without hesitation, garbage party. It's like he's been thinking about it for ages, but he just had this idea. He wanted to do it. Okay, it wasn't what I thought he would pick, but he went for it. And so I said, okay, well, I'm going to lean into that. A garbage party, like I warmed to the idea. Yeah, that could be good. And so I don't know what his expectations for it were, but it was really fun for me to plan and to execute and to roll out, just because the bar for success was so low. I mean, it's a literal garbage party. That is a measure of success. So I don't know where he came up with the idea from, but it was really fun just because it was freeing. There was no expectation. And still more for me. It was fun.
That's awesome. Okay. So where did you start? Like, what did the party look like as you shaped it up?
My first thought was I got to go to Pinterest and find out what is out there, and there wasn't much. Like there wasn't anything on Pinterest at the time. I was like, oh, so to make this happen, I thought, well, I've really got to tap into some creative skills. I can't just copy what someone else is doing. Just got to think like, what's at a garbage dump? What can we do? What resources do we have in the house? And so literally opening up the recycling bin and pulling out milk jugs and tin cans and, newspaper. I'm like, well, I guess this is it. So it didn't cost a lot. The party was relatively inexpensive. We just used those kinds of things from the recycling bin for decorations. We put them kind of in their walkway heading into the house and up the stairs and kind of throughout. That was the theme. So we were right on point. And it was great. We had a bunch of newspapers. I'd kind of been collecting them. And so we used that for even the games that we were playing. The kids would crumple up the newspaper and we'd have a garbage toss, like getting it into the bins. Easy. I had a bunch of flies that I had bought for a Halloween thing and for sensory play. And so I had all these little flies. I thought, oh, I'll use the flies that I have. Flies are at a garbage dump. And so we use that as one of the games, like a timed kind of scavenger hunt where the kids would find them and see how many they could find in a time period. We had all this stuff. It was great. And my 3-year-old audience just ate it up. They loved it. Great. Yeah.
That's perfect. Then she told me about another great theme, a take-a party, complete with a pun in the name.
We had a take-a party one year. And so the same child, he said, I want to do something like that's taking things apart. I love that. So we went to the thrift store and bought all kinds of electronics. I got the kids' little screwdriver sets, and we just laid down heavy paper and cloths on the table so they wouldn't damage anything. And we just took apart little screws and took apart cameras and old clocks. And we found an old video recorder, video camera, and the kids just took this stuff apart, and it was really cool. They're pulling out screws, they're pulling out little wires, they're pulling out magnifying type of instruments in the cameras. It was also very inexpensive because I had, 50% off stuff going on at the thrift stores, and I'd buy up those particular electronics. And then the kids could recreate something with it. They could remake it, and everybody got a bag, and they could take home all the parts that they wanted to take home. I had hot glue guns out. It was great.
What a fabulous idea. She's just so clever. Another creative one we've been part of is my son's friend who had a backwards party. All the guests wore their clothes backwards, and they just played simple party games, but with a backward twist. Then they ate dessert before dinner and other things like that. Joy Chantry also loves creating themed parties for not only her kids, but her husband as well.
They'll pick a theme. They'll tell me what they want. And so then I'll just start thinking. And that's my favorite part about it, is coming up with the funny ideas, the things that would go along with it, like the food to tie in whatever the holiday is or whatever the birthday celebration is, to tie the food in with funny, labels on that. And then decorations, obviously, that we come up with stuff that fits that theme. And then just kind of run with it. My husband, a couple of years ago, I decided he didn't choose. I chose for him that he was going to have a unicorn birthday. That was one of my favorite. I know. So he came home, and there was pink and purple and teal, and I made a big unicorn cake, and he really enjoyed that one.
But guess what? Your theme for the party can also just be birthday party, which is definitely all my teens want, and that's the only kind of party anyone ever knew when I was growing up. You played Duck, Duck, Goose, Pin the Tail on the Donkey, musical chairs, maybe a water balloon toss if it's summer, then you ate cake and ice cream and you played. This is Margaret Abel's go-to, again from that same episode of What Fresh Hell, Let's Rethink Birthday Parties.
Our birthday parties are come to the backyard and do whatever the heck you want in the yard. And the kids have a really good time. Like, I leave out a soccer ball and stuff. It's basically, the theme of the party is recess. Like, come out and play. You're not allowed in the house. I'm sorry if you have to go to the bathroom. You're not allowed in the house. I mean, I may make an exception if you can really convince me you can't hold it. And then pizza is served an hour and a half in, and then cake is served an hour and 45 minutes in, and then everyone gets picked up at the 2-hour mark.
Yep.
One of these backyard parties also involved an awkward, dancing Darth Vader, which ended with a free-for-all of kids whacking him with pool noodles. It's definitely worth listening to the episode just to hear this whole story. It was hilarious. My third son only had one themed superhero party. After that, he said when he was just 8, "Can you not put up any stupid decorations or plan any silly games and just let my friends and I play whatever we want?" Yes and yes. He's been in charge of his parties ever since, although this year, just last week, I did buy candy bars so they could play that game with candy bars and dice. I'll explain the game on Instagram this week if anybody wants to know. There are regular birthday parties, and then there are milestone birthdays, which are different in different cultures, and really just whatever you decide are your family milestones. So it could be 8, 12, 13 when you become a teenager, maybe 15 if you're going to have a quinceañera, 16, 18, 20, 21... Jen Brimhall, who we heard from a bit earlier, was intrigued by the idea of milestone birthdays and specifically coming-of-age celebrations as her oldest daughter approached the age of 12.
Our culture right now doesn't have these types of traditions. If you go into the past of different cultures, different religions, it was a really common thing to have something that marked the movement from child to adult. And it's really in our culture right now that we don't. And people want to find meaning. And if they don't find meaning in a healthy way, sometimes they'll find it in unhealthy ways. And I was introduced to the idea by Hal and Melanie Young of Raising Real Men. And then I read another book called Wild Things that talked about raising boys, because I have 4 boys. And they mentioned something along those same lines as well. And so I kind of took those 2 ideas and mashed them together in a way that felt good for our family. And the reason I wanted to do that was because I feel like our American society does a really poor job of raising teenagers, of making the transition from child to adult, responsible adults who are independent. They can take care of themselves. They can make good decisions. They're contributors. And so we really wanted to focus on helping that transition for our children. And I think it's also a kind thing to do. It's a lot of times, kids hit that magic age of 18 and ta-da, you're an adult, you get to pay all your own bills, you're responsible for yourself now. Legally, there are more consequences, all of these other things. And so I think it's the kind thing to do, is to really help them through that transition and teach them what they are capable of, what is expected of them, and what's healthy living too.
Awesome. Well, since I know it varies every year, can you just tell me some of the elements that you've put together?
For sure. So my daughter was kind of our guinea pig. And as I said, it evolved since then. And so what we've done is we've decided to invite all of their mentors, aunts or uncles or neighbors or scout leaders or coaches or whoever it might be, of the same gender is what we do. And we try to make it so that we don't have anybody of their own age there, because that gets a little distracting. So for my 12-year-olds, we invite ages 15 and up. Daughter, we just had a nice picnic lunch on my mom's back deck with my mom and my sisters. And since then, it's evolved into more of a big day activity. You can also add in physical trials and elements there. You can add in service elements. So there's just a lot of different ways you can take it based on your family situation and what you think your child specifically needs as well. We live in a rural area, so for us, that looks like going out into the forest and doing target practice, doing axe throwing, because I do have 4 boys. They like to be more active like that. It involves rock climbing and rappelling, just a day of, for them, manly fun, that they all enjoy. And then at the end of the day, we have a campfire ceremony. And that is where all of their mentors, whoever was invited, will bring a letter of some of life lessons or advice that they want to impart to them, or just things that they think are important to being a real man, because the Hollywood definition is different than what I really want my children to take away. I want them to, be close to God. I want them to be hardworking. I want them to care for others, and the list goes on and on, of course. But they will then read these letters to my child around this campfire. And then we put the letters in a binder. Sometimes there's a gift attached with it. We've had people give our children a compass with a special meaning behind it. We've had a walking stick with a special meaning behind it. Different things that can be attached to the lesson that they want to share. And it's just a really special time. I feel like it helps bond the generations together. They have a day of fun, and then they have some time that's really meaningful where they can share what's in their hearts. And it really is just a really meaningful, really meaningful event. And then I get all those letters, I put them in a binder, I add, stories from our family history of strong people, stories from real heroes from the past. I do inspiring quotes or sermons or different things that we want to give to our child. And then that's theirs. Usually it's associated with some sort of a theme that we think that they can really use. And so all those are based around a theme. We as parents usually give a gift as well. And it's so neat just to see your 12-year-old leafing through this binder, reading advice from their older brother, or reading it from their uncle, or anybody else, looking at these quotes from really great people of the past. And it really sets a bar as they go into their teenage years about the kind of person they can become.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I love this idea. What have your kids' reactions been, and how has it benefited them now that you've seen some of them get quite a bit farther down the road?
I've seen just those connections are a lot deeper. You know, we're blessed to have a lot of family nearby and far away and different things. But I feel like once you share your heart with somebody, that's kind of an unusual happening. I feel like in our world today, we stay mostly surface level. And but once you share your heart with someone, it really helps those bonds go deeper. And I had one of my kids, he's 19 now, and a little, several months ago, he was just having a rough time. He was in a time of transition. He had a big thing coming up, and he was just freaking out a little bit internally. You could just tell life was hard. And so I called my brother-in-law, who had been at these coming of age ceremonies, who's been a really positive force in his life. And I said, he's having a hard time. Is there anything that you think that you could do for him? And he's like, sure, have him come on out. And they have a little mini ranch. And so he said, I need help fixing my horse stalls. They got damaged in the wind. And so he invited my son over to go help him. And my son just broke down and cried at their house. My big strapping wrestler, football player of a son just cried and cried and cried. And I'm going to cry now. But this man was able to touch him in ways that I couldn't as his mom. And I was so grateful for what he was able to teach my son that day, for the love he was able to give to him, he and his wife. And I just think things like that don't happen often, especially when we stay surface level. And seeing all those people around that campfire showed my son how many people loved him. He could count them one by one because they were all there. And even people who he had to zoom in, or people whose letters came in later, he had concrete evidence of their love for him. And he knew that he could call on them at any time. And that's priceless, I think.
In addition to planning these amazing celebrations and parenting her 5 children, Jen runs the website raisethegood.com, a great resource for families to learn about how to use media positively in your home, which she'll be talking about in a future episode. She even created an online guidebook with everything you need to know to throw your own coming-of-age celebration, available for just $13.99 at raisethegood.com. Of course, grown-ups can have parties too, usually with bigger ones at milestone birthdays. Devin James had her first daughter when she was almost 18, so her early birthdays as a mom looked a little different than they do now at 30.
Since I was like a young mom, I was blessed to still have like my parents and her father's parents involved. So, I got a lot of free time to be able to, be with my age group, my young 20s, with my friends, going out every once in a while. So I was able to celebrate my birthdays like a normal 20-something-year-old would do, like go out, wear a cute outfit. But as I got older, I feel like we don't really celebrate our birthdays that much, just like the big ones. Well, I know I'm content with food and a cake. That's all I ever want.
As a mom, sometimes it's nice to just have a quiet birthday at home. But mom birthdays don't always have to be low-key. Just ask Wendy Castellano-Wolf, the other half of the podcasting duo that hosts the Mamacita podcast.
When I got older, I came up with this thing called Calm. Calm Celebration of Life Month.
Awesome.
So like, when's your birthday, Whitney?
May.
Okay, so May is your calm, and so that means
your calm is about to begin.
I know. Yeah. I'm getting really excited for calm.
So then I knew calm was going to go viral.
It's going to go far, girl.
Yes, it is.
We celebrate the whole month, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So basically the whole month is yours, and you get to celebrate and do whatever you want because it's special. So yeah,
that is awesome.
All my friends do calm.
We usually keep adult birthdays pretty low-key at my house, a quiet family party or a night out to dinner. But I did throw my husband a 40th birthday party. We had a bunch of people over for Indian food takeout, and I put up a timeline of pictures from every year of his life and posted little-known facts around the room. Nothing too fancy, but we did have a great time. The biggest adult birthday party I've ever planned was a milestone party for my parents a few years ago. Since we're a family of Beatles fans, I proposed to my siblings that instead of a big 50th or 60th birthday party, we should throw them a When I'm 64 party and make it a big Beatles concert. So we all prepared music within our own families and then several group numbers, reserved a gazebo in the city park, and invited friends and family from all over the country. We put on a really fun show, including several numbers with my parents and my dad's brother. It was such a great, meaningful celebration of their lives. I'll include clips of some of the songs at the end of the episode, and I'll put up a video with clips from several of the acts on the How She Moms YouTube channel and Instagram. Gift giving will be its own episode one of these days, but we'll touch on a few birthday-specific ideas. My friend Tamsin Barlow, a big Lord of the Rings fan, carries on the Hobbit birthday tradition. Hobbits give other people presents on their birthdays, so she had her kids wrap presents for the friends who came to their parties. This isn't too much different than traditional party favors, but a bit more fun and a really nice lesson. Allison Bertola tapes dollar bills on the door in the shape of the number of the age her kids are turning. I'm totally stealing this one for Abel's 12th birthday tomorrow. Birthdays are also a great time to get the kids thinking about each other and trying to figure out what gifts and activities will make the birthday girl or boy happy. My sister-in-law is great at involving the kids.
As my kids have gotten older, it's been really fun to see how they're really good gift givers. Actually, they're really thoughtful about it, and they do that. And it's pretty fun to get to witness that and to see. And sometimes they're the ones reminding me, like, we gotta get some decorations up. And that's pretty nice too. It's something that they enjoy and want to make happen for each other.
My biggest birthday gift hack is for young children, their first 3, maybe 4 birthdays. My oldest son got quite a few new toys for his first 3 birthdays, but because they grow so quickly at that age, they lose interest in the toys by their next birthday. So I just put them in a box, take them out of circulation, and then wrap them up for the next kid on the appropriate birthday. They're totally new to that kid, and really even the older kid who doesn't remember them very well. Then you're not collecting bins and bins of redundant toys. As for gifts for your kids' friends, Siri Payne, a life coach, has a great idea.
I have all girls, it's always like nice and it's always easy to know what would be make good birthday presents. And it's always like some of the perfumes and the lotions and the bath stuffs and the nail polish. So we actually go buy that after Christmas, and then we put it in what we call the birthday box. So when their friends have a birthday, they just go pick something up. And so
that is awesome, because
every once in a while, as they're getting older, so their friendships are a little more special. Not that they weren't when they were little, but it's like, oh, they know exactly kind of what that friend wants, and we'll complement it with something in the birthday box. But I buy like makeup bags, so no matter what, like they're always just something in there. So if they want to give them a gift card that with a makeup bag and a couple of nail polishes or whatever.
There's always those urgent times when you're like, shoot, we have nothing. And then
and I need something to give them. And so, I mean, cash always works, but that's always fun. So they get to go pick out of the birthday box of something for their friend. And that seems to work out nicely as well.
You can find Siri at organizedlife.coach. A lot of birthday traditions center around food, from picking favorite meals or restaurants to breakfast in bed or pulling kids out of school to take them to lunch. Several families also have a special birthday plate that the birthday person uses all day. Even simple foods can make for lasting birthday memories. Here's Meg Singley again.
One thing that we do is you get to pick out whatever cereal you want for breakfast on your birthday. And I've usually been able to keep that happening right on their birthday. And I think I fell into that because of my kids being in school. I see other moms who do these amazing things and make, they make waffles and pancakes. And I'm like, that is awesome. And I love that. Our speed in the morning is more, here is a bowl of cereal. There might be balloons on the back of your chair, and there might be a birthday crown for you to wear. And that's what we do.
And then, of course, there's dessert. Most people I talk to make a traditional birthday cake, though I'm guessing that even in a post-pandemic world, blowing out candles on a communal cake is something we're all going to leave in the past for good. Other families just let the birthday person pick any kind of dessert they like, often donuts. Making a special birthday cake is one of the main ways Megan Gutensberger shows birthday love.
The one thing that I was always proud about is I would make them a fancy cake. So we would have a theme each year, and whether it was one of like the Barbie cakes, with the Barbie stuck in the middle of it, and then it was an American Girl party, so we made it look like Felicity's dress, or a puppy cake when Riley had a puppy party one year. Tanner had monkeys one year. So every year there was always some sort of fun themed cake. I am not getting a job at a bakery anytime soon. They really aren't that great, but they were always like labors of love. So that has traditionally been what we do. And even now, like Tanner's birthday's on Friday and he doesn't really want anything, but I will make him a fancy cake. It's not going to be cute like Elmo or anything, but something that takes some time and attention and that I can lick the frosting on because I love frosting.
And Anna Zupanzik shared a really fun cake tradition.
Actually, for the garbage party, when I had a cake that I was baking, he wanted a chocolate cake and it didn't release from the pan properly for me.
Perfect.
And so I was like, well, I guess this is on point for our theme. And so I had the kids come and I said, you can decorate it. You can make it look however you want, like a garbage dump. And that was new for me because, you know, I was, I'm the mom. I should do the cake decorating. I should do the cupcakes, whatever. But the kids came and they were so excited. I had gummy worms and those little runts candies that, you know, like the bananas and the limes and the apples and just all kinds of colorful things. And they mounted it up there. They made little piles. We had garbage trucks that they put on top. And it was awesome. It was so fun. It was better than I could have ever imagined or done myself. And they were so proud of it. And so since then, it's been like 20 birthday parties since then. And the kids have all done their own cakes. It's been a fun tradition. And it's a lot less stress for me. And it's really empowering for them. I think they look forward to it every year. It's my turn. I get to decorate.
Some of my favorite birthday ideas are simple behind-the-scenes traditions that are really all about connection. One of the sweetest is this tradition from Casey Von Stein, aka Miss Freddie, a professional photo organizer at MissFreddie.com. When her son was born,
my cousin gave me onesies with the months on them. And so I photographed, my son is my oldest. I photographed him in those onesies every month and I turned it into a blog post because I needed content for my blog. And I just would like write a letter to him about the things he was interested in and very short. These aren't like long involved letters, but I would pair them with the pictures of his onesies for that first year. And then the year was over and I thought, well, I really want to keep writing this letter. So I changed it instead of monthly to be once a year. And I take my kids out for around their birthday for portraits. That's pretty much the only time I pick up my DSLR camera now is I'll take them out for a portrait session just with me and the kid and do some nice pictures of them on their birthday. So I still write that blog post and I pair those portraits with a letter. And it's still a short letter, but I imagine that by the time they get to be 18, when I combine them all, it will feel like a longer book instead of these short little like 2 or 3 paragraph letters. But yeah, I've kept up with it and he's 8 and she's 7 and I've got photos for every year paired with a letter and they haven't seen them yet. So it'll be a surprise.
Really? Kind of along those lines, my sister Haley Kirkland does video interviews of each of her 4 kids using the same set of questions every birthday. It's so fun to see how they grow and change. Plus, the videos are hilarious. But here is her most fun tradition.
We like to have a balloon to pop at every hour of a kid's birthday. Like starting at 10 and going till 7, we'll have a balloon to pop. And inside the balloon has a little piece of paper that says what we're going to do that hour. And it's as simple often as like going around and everyone tells them one thing that they love about them. Or it can be as intricate as now we're going to get ice cream or, now we're going to a party, but just something so that the kid feels like the whole day is kind of just surrounded by them, which is just kind of fun.
And here are a few more traditions from Jen Brimhall when she's not doing a coming of age celebration.
So we always decorate the house the night before or early in the morning. And then that way they wake up to balloons and streamers and, all that stuff, right? When they wake up, that's special for them. They like that. We usually go over the story of when they were born, the night before I was at, Aunt so-and-so's house and we did this. And, then I woke up that night and I knew you were coming, whatever it happens to be. And then they get no chores that day. And so they're all in for that. And they get to choose their meals and their birthday cake and different things. And we give them a few gifts. My husband will also take them camping every year for their birthday, just a daddy-child camping trip. And they really look forward to that. So that's fun.
And I love this simple but thoughtful idea from Meg Singley.
I make a playlist that we listen to at dinner, and I ask everyone to tell me a song that reminds them of the birthday person, and then I put it on the playlist.
When I mentioned this playlist suggestion to my friend Molly, she also told me about what happens when you type happy birthday and any name into Amazon Music. It gives you a whole playlist of crazy songs singing happy birthday with that name. Another thing I will definitely be pulling out for Abel's birthday tomorrow. How have I never heard of this? If you haven't either, you've got to try it. It's hilarious. Music was also a memorable part of Wendy Castellano-Wolf's childhood birthdays.
When I was little, my dad would always put on a song called Las Mañanitas, the morning song. And it's basically a birthday song in mariachi form. And so I would wake up to that, and I knew that it was my birthday. So it was very special. We always had like big piñatas and big family parties and everything. And that was always a lot of fun.
I spent a few days last month collecting birthday ideas on Instagram, and it was so fun to see the way different family personalities come out through these birthday traditions. One Instagram contributor lets her kids open presents in the morning right when they wake up. Such an exciting way to start the day, and then they get to play with them all day. Another mom displays pictures and memorabilia of the birthday child all week long. And several families decorate bedroom doors or make posters with nice things written about them. And many people read baby books, look at old pictures, and tell cute stories from when they were little or talk about the day they were born. Another common tradition is to have the whole family take turns sharing what they love about the birthday person. I like Vanessa Quigley's perspective on this now that her kids are older.
At dinner, the birthday child gets to choose what we have for dinner, and then we all go around the table to say what we love about the birthday child. And as our family has grown and people have left the nest, and I have children living all over the world right now, that tradition has morphed into our group text. And again, yesterday for my daughter's birthday, I was at dinner with her and two of her sisters, and we typed into our group text what we love about Claire, and then everybody else started pinging in with their thoughts, and we read them and shed tears together. And my daughter was like, "This is so weird doing it over text. Not the same. It's not ideal, but it's still wonderful." And actually, I love that we have it documented, these sweet, tender things that normally just get said around the dinner table. And then I think, oh man, I wish I recorded that.
Vanessa Quigley is the co-founder of Chatbooks, a mother of 7, and the host of the Mom Force podcast. One of the sweetest ideas about birthday connections was from Megan Gutensberger, who lost her daughter Riley in an accident several years ago.
Riley would plan her birthdays, like her birthday's September 10th, so September 11th, she was planning her next birthday party. She was just always on it. So we try to do some fun things with that too, especially in her memory.
Nice.
So, yeah.
And so is that kind of where this birthday initiative that you did was?
Yeah, so in September, we are typically the charity of the month at 105 West Brewing. And the first year that we were doing that, we raised money to set up birthday bags. So it was kind of like a birthday party in a bag, if you will. And we partnered with the task force, the Douglas County Task Force, on that. So a parent could come in to the task force and they would have everything they would need to throw their kid a birthday party, because we all know that birthday parties are not cheap. And so it had the cake, the frosting, the cupcake liners, balloons, wrapping paper, favors, all those things, so that they could then turn around and do something sweet for their kiddos without trying to figure out how you're going to, send everyone to Chuck E. Cheese or whatever. So it was great. We ended up, I want to say we had close to 200 birthday bags that were either people donated money and we bought the supplies, or people created their own. And they have been used up at the task force and hopefully brought some really great joy to people. When you can make joy for your kids, you just feel this such a relief, and then you also experience some joy. So it's like that twofold joy. Yeah. And that's always a special thing when you can do both.
You can hear Megan and Riley's story in episode 67, How Megan Grieves Her Daughter. I hope the birthdays in your future are filled with magic and connection, or at least that they don't stress you out. Maybe you'll even try one or two of the ideas from this episode. I know I will, starting tomorrow. And hey, let's all help Wendy out and make Colm a thing. La 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 la. Thank you so much for listening to the How She Moms podcast and for being part of this community. There are so many other ways for you to connect and hopefully also contribute. I share tips and ideas regularly on Instagram and Facebook at How She Moms. You can find past episodes and other resources at howshemoms.com. And you can always just email me directly at whitney@howshemoms.com. Special thanks to my own wonderful mom, Susan Singley, for recording my theme music. She played this song all the time when I was growing up, and to me, it's the soundtrack of motherhood.